Welcome back to Will to Heal, your space for truth, healing, and transformation. I'm your host, Jamie Wright Deese, and you're listening to episode 2 in our series on generational trauma. Last week, we talked about what generational trauma is, how it's passed through families, communities, and even DNA. We broke down different types, from personal trauma to systemic racism, and we explored the ways trauma travels silently from one generation to the next. Today, we're going deeper into the wounds we carry, the ones that live beneath the surface, and how those wounds shape the way we live, love, parent, and survive. We don't just inherit eye color or talents. We inherit silence. We inherit shame. We inherit survival strategies like perfectionism, people-pleasing, anger, or emotional shutdown. Sometimes it's the tone of voice we use with our children, the way we avoid conflict, or the way we embrace ourselves for disappointment, even when life is going well. These are not random traits, they're wounds, unspoken, unhealed, and often unnoticed. When you grow up in trauma, hypervigilance feels like safety. Control feels like love. Avoidance feels like peace. But what is it really? It's survival. And if we don't recognize that, we'll pass it down like a family recipe. One of the clearest ways we see trauma passed down is through family dynamics. Maybe you were the scapegoat, the person that was blamed for things you couldn't control, or the peacemaker, always calming the storm to avoid chaos. Or maybe you were the caretaker, growing up too fast, managing adult emotions before you even understood your own. Those roles aren't random. They're survival strategies. Each one is a response to dysfunction we didn't cause, but had to adapt to. And these roles don't just disappear when we grow up. We carry them into adulthood, into our friendships, marriages, parenting, even our work environments. The problem is, when trauma shapes our role in the family, we forget who we really are. Let's talk a minute about parenting styles, because this is one of the clearest ways trauma gets passed down, even without anyone realizing it. There are 4 main types of parenting styles, and each one deeply affects how a child sees themselves, others, and the world. Authoritarian parents are strict and controlling. Obedience is expected. Emotions are often dismissed. Children raised this way may grow up to be fearful, perfectionistic, or rebellious. They learn that love is conditional, based on performance or obedience. Permissive parents are warm, but have very few rules or boundaries. These kids may struggle with self-discipline, feel anxious in unstructured environments, or develop people-pleasing behaviors. They're always trying to keep the peace because no one ever showed them how to sit in discomfort. Neglectful parents are emotionally distant or unavailable, sometimes because of their own unresolved trauma, addiction, or mental health struggles. These children often become hyper-independent. They grow up believing that asking for help is dangerous, or that their needs are burdens. And then there's the goal: authoritative parenting, firm but loving, clear expectations, but also emotional support. This is the style that research shows leads to the healthiest outcomes, but it's hard to practice if you've never experienced it yourself. And here's the thing. You can't parent differently until you heal differently. Because when you're stuck in survival mode, there's no space for curiosity, softness, or patience. You're just trying to protect, control, or endure. So healing isn't just about breaking a cycle. It's about learning a new way, one that starts with how we treat ourselves. Healing starts with awareness, not blame, not shame, just awareness. Ask yourself, what patterns do I see repeating in my family? What emotions were off limits growing up? What was I taught about love, anger, or trust? When you can name it, you can face it. And when you can face it, you can choose differently. You are not your trauma, but you may be carrying the emotional weight of generations before you. The good news, you don't have to pass it down. Your healing doesn't just change your life, it changes what comes next. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode gives you something to reflect on, something to recognize, and something to reclaim. Next time on Will to Heal, we're digging even deeper in episode 3. We are our ancestors, once children too. We'll talk about reparenting ourselves and how seeing our parents as wounded children can shift the way we heal. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, you were born with the will to heal. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone else carrying quiet wounds. Follow us on social media at Will to Heal or Will to Heal LLC, and feel free to message me with your reflections or story. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.